The legally embattled former president and frontrunner for the GOP presidential nomination appears to have paid a star witness nearly $1 million to testify on Trump's behalf in the New York fraud case.
We heard Trump there talking about this expert witness who testified that there's no evidence for accounting fraud. What's the latest from inside court?
It's an NYU professor named Eli Bartov, and he's got quite a resume. He's actually been called by an expert by the Attorney General's office in a prior case, so he does have some credibility here. And he said that this entire case that the Attorney General's office brought against former President Trump lacks merit. He said that is his absolute opinion after reviewing all the documents, reading the complaint, and he said that's so because he can't find any evidence of actual accounting fraud, where the Attorney General said Trump had gone awry in his statements of financial condition. This expert says that the state failed to lay out what specific violations of generally accepted accounting principles Trump had run afoul of.
Eli Bartov is an accounting professor at NYU's Stern School of Business, and he's been brought in as an expert to help Trump win his fraud case. However, the Trump team might be experiencing some buyer's remorse because, frankly, he just doesn't seem to be worth the money. Not only is Bartov not helping to convince anyone that Trump didn't intentionally commit bank fraud, he's actually poking holes in Trump's defense. So the crux of Trump's argument is that he didn't trick any banks into lending him money because banks are responsible for doing their own due diligence. It's not his fault if they didn't. In other words, it shouldn't matter if he maybe inflated the value of his properties, it's just part of the business of doing business. Bartov tried to support this argument in his testimony, telling the judge that, quote, "You cannot rely on the numbers as reported in the financial statement." So just to clarify real quick, he's referring to the numbers the Trump org would have reported in their own financial statements. He's saying that the banks, specifically Deutsche Bank, should not rely on them. Unfortunately for Trump, that part doesn't make much of a difference in this trial. It doesn't matter whether or not the bank believed the statements, or if they didn't conduct their own analysis, or if they were truly tricked by Trump. It only matters that Trump org knowingly inflated the value of the properties in the statements that they provided to the banks in the first place. Either way, Bartov has contradicted himself. In his previous sworn statement, he said that Trump's financial statements did not significantly impact Deutsche Bank's decision to give him a loan. But then he also said that the bank's, quote, reliance on the information was marginal in deciding whether to extend the subject loans and what interest rate to require. So were the statements significant or not significant or marginal? These things matter in court.
And this is what we have. It's a scam. It's a sham. Just so you know, my financial statements are phenomenal. They are actually less in terms of the numbers used than the actual net worth. The actual net worth is substantially more. No bank was affected. No bank was hurt. They don't even know why they have to be involved. And they've so testified. They can't believe that they're involved because they were paid back on time. There were no defaults. There were no problems. And it was like a perfect client. In the meantime, people are being murdered all over the sidewalks of New York. There was no victim here.
Anyway, Bartov's own expertise was called into question because, interestingly, he had actually served as an expert witness for the AG's office years prior. Now he's serving as an expert witness against the AG's office. And it's funny because this is relevant to my previous video. So if you haven't seen my video about how Trump seemed to suggest that Dallas, Texas was not in the United States, you should check that out because it's all related. The abridged version of that, though, is that Trump was mad at the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, for suing him, so he brought up a case from 2019 when the AG's office sued ExxonMobil. In the lawsuit, which was initially actually brought by James's predecessor, the state of New York alleged that ExxonMobil committed fraud by intentionally misleading people about the business's climate impacts. The trial concluded after James had taken over as AG. Trump was trying to say that Letitia James drove a major corporation out of New York with her lawsuit, which is wrong for a few different reasons. But for today's story, all you need to know is that New York lost that case against ExxonMobil. Bartov had served as an expert witness for the AG's office on that case, and now he's working against them. So referring back to that 2019 case, at the time, the justice wrote, quote, The court rejects Dr. Bartov's expert testimony as unpersuasive, and in the case of his testimony about the Mobile Bay facility, finds Dr. Bartov's testimony to be flatly contradicted by the weight of the evidence. And this was brought up in court by the AG's legal team. But what does he care? At this point, Bartov has been paid nearly $1 million by the Trump team. And I swear, when I first heard about this story about a week ago, it was only being reported that he was getting paid $500,000. So that's quite a haul for a week's worth of shoddy work. And what's more American than that? All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out my podcast, Modern Context. Thanks.